like anger.
Anger.
Anger and like I'm upset. I feel betrayed. I feel betrayed a man like that we knew for over so many years, with family friend, someone we could look up to would do something like this.
Very poignant report from an alleged victim of teacher Mark Burnt. The 61-year-old former Los Angeles teacher remains jailed tonight. He pleaded not guilty to committing lewd acts on children in his classroom. Attorney Brian Claypool is representing 10 families in a civil suit, including the boy we just heard from. And I recently spoke with the boy's father as well about Mark Burnt and his feelings of betrayal, having been close with this man across 3 kids and several decades in his 3rd grade classroom. Watch this. So it's really the depths of the violation that's so troubling. I mean, this is somebody, and my understanding is, again, I've been educated that teachers hold a very high position in your community, and to be even let down a little bit by someone whom you've trusted for so much, for so long, is a big deal.
It is. I was telling my wife at one time I would put my hands on fire for this man because that's how much we trusted him. I feel really, really betrayed over what he's done with my kid. Not just with my kid, with all his kids, with, like my son says, with the community. He betrayed everybody.
And Brian, you're saying these betrayals started much earlier. Can you tell me about the earlier allegations?
Sure. There was a young girl that came forward in 1991, reported Mr. Burnt for alleged child abuse. Nothing was done. She was told by the school, hey, you're making it up.
Well, it's,
go away.
You know, I actually talked to a girl in that classroom. He was a 4th grade teacher at that time, I believe, right?
Right.
Is that right?
I think you're right.
And she said that they all saw something weird going on and that they were told they were being stupid, right? Isn't that's
true?
Yeah.
That's true.
And it all was just sort of pushed away. Well, that was the question of him engaged in weird activity under his desk, and you're saying that continued.
That's right. And then in 1994, 3 parents came forward, reported more unusual activities by Burnt to the Miramonte school principal, and they were told, you know what they were told? There's the door. You want to take your kids somewhere else, take them to another school. And that proves to me that this case is no longer about negligence. It's about an intentional, willful behavior on the part of this school district to completely disregard the safety and welfare of these kids. They knew what was going on. And they then did this analysis. Hey, do we want to fight the union? Do we want to fight any civil lawsuits? Or do we want to kick these kids to the curb and hope that we don't get caught? Because but for these photographs coming forward, they would have never gotten caught.
So it was some sort of weird cost-benefit analysis. You know, what's a kid's emotional life worth versus our struggles with the contracts and the teachers' union? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And include that. What's the cost of litigating? They did that analysis, and then they said, hey, this low-income family doesn't have a voice. They're not going to fight us. They'll never find out about it.
Do you think this was a subtle analysis they were doing, sort of, you know, qualitatively? Did they actually sit down with a pen and paper and go, oh, I think it's going to cost this many dollars if we do this?
In my opinion, it's not a subtle analysis. It's an overt analysis. They sit down and they do this analysis. I used to defend the same municipalities that I'm now suing.
Wow.
And I know what these folks do.
They do that. I don't know if you saw the LA Times this morning, but there was an article about this very issue with the contracts. You and I had talked, we'd raised it a couple of days ago. It's now getting into the press a little more, so I think you're onto something there. Now, I also talked to the alleged victim's father about the level of cooperation he was receiving from the LA County Sheriff's Department. Problem there, too, apparently. Take a look at this.
Up to this point, I heard from them just this morning, but I made I want to say a report back on January the 31st, and they told me someone will get to me within a week or so. I was contacted February the 3rd by a sergeant, and he told me that they have too many cases on hand, and that it was going to be a little bit before they get a hold of me. So again, he told me it'll be a week to 2 weeks before we can get to you. And that 2 weeks turned into this morning, and I heard the same thing again.
And we reached out to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department for a statement. They had no comment. But I tend to defend police. I mean, I think they have an impossible job. I defend teachers, too, by the way. That's why I want to be sure we really have the facts on this thing and not just hearsay. But is it possible that the sheriffs don't want to create a larger victim pool, and that's why they're sort of holding the cards closer to their chest? You understand what I'm saying?
I think that's possible, but I don't think that's fair. What if that was your child? I'm a single parent of a 6-year-old girl.
This is that analysis again.
That's it. But I have a 6-year-old girl. What if she was in that classroom? Wouldn't you, as a parent, want law enforcement to do a full and copious investigation to find justice for your child.
I absolutely would, but let me go back now to defending teachers. I also don't want good people afraid to become teachers because of spurious allegations. Let me go back to the allegations about the substance in the bottles and the test tubes and all that stuff. How do we know what that was? We found DNA, but that could have come off his hands. I'm playing devil's advocate, by the way, because if this is even a hint of truth in all this, I'm so disgusted. I almost can't listen to the allegations that you're saying. But how do we know?
Well, that's a fair question. First of all, law enforcement found bodily fluids from Mr. Burnt in his trash can. We know that for a fact. Law enforcement then to their...
Stop, Brian. You're giving me... It's just too much. It's too much to be believed. You know, when you start listing those allegations, it's hard to listen to them. And when you talk about facts, it's hard to hear it.
It's in his trash can. To make it worse, Dr. Drew, do you know what was sitting right next to your desk over here on his desk was a jar of Vaseline on his desk.
And it was inexplicable. There's no reason he had it there.
That's
There's not some reasonable explanation for why he had
There
that.
can't be any reasonable explanation for a 3rd or 4th grade teacher to have a bottle of Vaseline on his desk. And just
Brian,
to finish the thought.
It's so sordid. It's such a sordid tale. That's why I go into the sort of it can't be kind of mode, because it's almost too much to be believed. And then to see a school system not have picked this up in spite of there being evidence there years or decades before, it's too much.
Let me tell you one more.
I got 20 seconds.
This is a breaking piece of news that hasn't been reported anywhere else. We've learned through 2 kids that in 2010, the principal of Miramonte School walked into the classroom that Mr. Burnt was teaching and saw him videotaping the children with a video cam.